Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, HaKodesh. You see from the title, there's a number of things in the news, and we're going to get through these, a couple of videos and some scriptures that'll cover what we're seeing happening in the news and happening around us in our environment if we unfortunately have to witness these things. So first of all, we have this Petri dish grown meat that they're trying to get the people of the world to consume. The reasons why don't even matter. There's plenty of food on the earth that we don't need to turn to genetically modified foods, biologically developed foods, and certainly not Petri dish grown foods, which they are trying to call lab grown food. We don't need that. The second thing we see is a huge rise in monkeypox. A huge rise in monkeypox, and you got to understand who it is primarily infecting. But if you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, or Israelites scattered around the world participate in degenerate behavior, the Lord may do this unto you as well. We're going to see this in the scriptures. And then we have a couple of stories on, I believe it was over 716 lightning strikes during a short storm in San Diego a couple of days ago. And also we have floods all around the world. We have many of them in the United States, and we see them in Alaska. We're going to see a couple of clips of that. And you know about it, Atlanta, or Georgia, I should say, as a result of the tropical storm Debbie, and the devastation post Debbie is still happening. The effects of that tropical storm went all the way to the Midwest around Illinois area. So let's get into it. This is Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. The Lord said, "Even thus shall the children of Yisrael eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them," because he scattered us amongst the Gentiles. He scattered us into corners. He scattered us into all nations of the earth. And this is our unfortunate situation. So what do they want to do now? They want to feed us Petri dish meat. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. You see, these are the two people that are behind this company called Upside. They have this man on the left and this Asian woman on the right. The man on the left is from India. You received a formal education in India, and they came over to the United States and did a couple of universities here in America. He also teaches, but he also has developed, for some reason, this company to create imaginary meat. You know, meat that's not meat. And then you also have this woman on the right, this Asian woman on the right here. And you know, Asians already, we know they eat bats and they eat rats and they eat they eat live food while it's still moving and breathing. So it's not a stretch that they would go to Petri dish meats. It's not a stretch. So again, these are two Gentiles, by the way, two Gentiles. So they are defiling or providing defiled food is what they're doing. They're providing defiled food for the purpose of making money.
Right now, a lawsuit has been filed challenging Florida's ban on cultivated meat. A company is claiming it is unconstitutional and will fight to operate in the state. Local 10's Terrell Fournay joining us live from Miami with this story. Terrell.
And this is a relatively new way of producing food. In fact, over the summer, there was a tasting party here in this Wynwood neighborhood where people got to try cultivated meat for the first time. But now, Florida has become the first state in the entire country to ban cultivated meat. Cultivated meat may be the new craze among some consumers, but in Florida, that meat-like product is deemed a concern. So much so, it is now banned in the Sunshine State.
The sale of cultivated meat in the state of Florida is not a health and safety problem. The FDA and the USDA, after many years of rigorous process, have affirmed the safety of our cultivated meat.
That's the founder and CEO of Upside Foods, a California-based company that grows poultry, duck, and beef products manufactured from real animal cells. A tasting party in Wynwood over the summer preceded a statewide ban on cultivated meat that went into effect July 1st.
Take your fake lab-grown meat elsewhere. We're not doing that in the state of Florida.
Lawmakers cited a need to protect the livelihood of Florida's agricultural and cattle farmers in the state, but Upside Foods believes the ban is unconstitutional. The company filed this 31-page federal civil lawsuit this week, seeking court action to get the ban reversed. The suit says as a result of the ban, Upside is enduring ongoing harm in the form of lost revenue, missed business and promotional opportunities, reputational damage, and loss of consumer goodwill.
The federal government has said that cultivated chicken cells produced at Upside's facilities can be used in poultry products, and the state of Florida is saying that they can't. The state simply doesn't have that power.
Americans consume upwards of 8 billion chickens and 34 million cows a year, an unsustainable number for the future, say experts. So Upside is one of 2 companies that can legally grow meat from cells, providing an environmentally friendly alternative to animal slaughter.
So cultivated meat in our minds can be a really powerful way to give consumers an additional kind of choice.
And that was the COO on This Week in South Florida just last month talking about this very issue. We know they had to scrap their plans to be a part of, Art Basel later on this year and the South Beach Food and Wine Festival. So Upside Foods, they are certainly leaning on the results of a favorable action, they hope, when it comes to this federal civil lawsuit. In the meantime, we know the state of Alabama, they have a similar measure, a ban that goes into effect in October, but at least 9 other states are in the process of creating similar bans as well. Stay tuned. We are live in Miami's Wynwood neighborhood. I'm Terrell Fornay, Local 10 News.
But wait until you see who is part of funding this abomination. Wait till you see. And this is an example of some of the items that they had in a video and also on their website of the food that they're trying to prepare for us. And they make it look attractive, they make it look nice. This is a gourmet dish here, but it's defiled food. The Lord provided the sources of clean food on the earth, and Petri dish food is not clean food, no matter how you look at it. Even if it's so-called created from the actual animal, chicken or beef, it's still artificial, synthetic, man-made, not Lord-made food, and we are not to eat it. And prayerfully, we're not eating these things unknowingly. That we're not being provided these foods without being told this is what we're eating. But it is kind of true because McDonald's had the pink slime in their burgers where it wasn't all ground beef, but it had pink slime mixed in with ground beef. So there are some instances where we weren't told about some things and we were consuming it. And who it is that actually funded this thing. Okay, this company is actually upside down. They are upside down. And they're going to face the consequences for it. And I pray the Most High protects our people from these things and judges these people for what they're bringing upon the earth, all of these abominations that they're bringing upon the earth. You see, upside, I have an acronym for upside. Upside is undermining provided sustenance, inventing disastrous eatables. That's what they're doing. Now, monkeypox. Moving on to monkeypox. Here you see a series of photos of monkeypox. They have said that it originated in Africa in 1953. If you understand how viruses work, they have to create something by mixing 2 elements together. But what the Lord is doing is turning it upon them. But what they're doing is trying to make so-called melanated people be the picture of this when they are mostly affected by this. There's a current story in Africa, I believe it's in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and you got to understand there's lots of things being done on that continent to destroy the people. In South Africa, there was a story of a European man that was part of an organization that was purposely infecting the South American Africans with AIDS, HIV. You know, it's gone all around the internet. So it's not a stretch to deduct that the same thing is being done in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and also could be used upon our people around the earth. There is such thing as medicine and things used as a biological weapon, unfortunately. So we're going to take a look at a couple of videos on that, and then we're going to see here that the Lord said that he would do something to the rebellious Israelites, and then the Lord said that when he calls us to repent, that he's going to turn those things, those curses upon the Gentiles. Now this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 61. It's like curses upon the rebellious Israelites. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. You know, there's plenty of things, you know, cancer, diabetes, HIV, AIDS, there are many things that we're dying from today. Heart disease, those things are not listed in the Bible, but these are things that actually happen upon our people to destroy our people. And when we repent, the Lord calls us to repent, he's going to turn these things upon our enemies. And we see this happening today. We see it because there's a epidemic in Europe, and they're trying to focus the attention on Africa, but the real impetus is to try to control it in Europe. And it is amongst the degenerate population that they are advertising, and they are spreading, and they are passing laws for. So let's get into this. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7. The curses turned onto the Gentiles, and the Lord thy God, thy power, will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Now, who is a people that is hated on and is persecuted? Who? It's not the ones that are supposed to be in the Holy Land living in the filth of sin and debauchery and greed. It's not them. We know who it is. It's our people. It's our people, the Israelites scattered around the world that are being hated on and persecuted. So the focus of this monkeypox thing is directed at so-called Africans, but we're going to see the truth. They've been trying to hide it, but we're going to see the truth. So looking at the top left, article on the left, mpox, also known as monkeypox, can spread through direct and indirect contact with the virus, human to human. The most common way for humans to spread monkeypox is through prolonged direct contact with skin lesions or body fluids, such as through skin-to-skin contact. We're really talking about sex, and that's the first item here. This can include, it actually does include, sexual intimate contact such as oral, anal, or vaginal sex, hugging, kissing, or cuddling, and massage, sharing personal items like bedding, towels, clothes that haven't been washed, prolonged face-to-face contact, and touching objects that have been contaminated by the virus, such as clothing, bedding, or towels. And that's because of the lesions and people not washing those items. And the center speaks about animal to human contact. And we're just going to skip that because we're really talking about what's happening out. This is how it might have been discovered, this animal to human contact, on purpose to develop something wicked. And now it's done gotten out of hand, and they're also using it to destroy people in the continent of Africa. The article on the right, you see, here's the truth of the matter. When I looked up this thing, because I remember seeing an article years ago about there was a European man in America that said he went and had sex with some men overseas. He went on a sex tour and had sex, and he came back and had this issue. This article says the person went to Canada. So Here's what it says on the right. Most of the cases confirmed were linked to a sauna known to be Lord gonna burn them quacks friendly establishment. The first case in the United States of America was detected in Massachusetts, we know is a primary European, Caucasian, Edomite, Esau, Edom state, in a man with recent travel history to Canada. Let's move on. So we see ABC News, an article from 5/19/22, the first monkeypox case in U.S. this year reported in Massachusetts. This is just a second witness against this, okay? And unfortunately on this article, because it is a European man, but they had an African man's hands with those pustules on it. I just took that out of there because the reality is that was not a black man from Massachusetts. It was a European Caucasian man, as they want to be called. So it said under that picture, what to know about monkeypox with clusters of the disease popping up in Europe and in one confirmed case in the United States. Do people need to worry about the virus spreading? Okay, now this was back in 2022. Today, they're calling an alarm. The so-called esau's World Health Organization is saying that there is a medical emergency. So this reads, a Massachusetts resident has tested positive for monkeypox. Health officials confirmed on that day, making it the first case of the rare virus detected in the United States this year. Remember, this is back in 2022. According to a release from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, the patient is an adult male who recently traveled to Canada. What did he travel to Canada for? Hey, they got a hookup. They got hookup culture today. And he got hooked up after that too, didn't he? The department completed initial testing on that day and was confirmed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So it has been confirmed that this person had the disease and had the virus, and also there's a news report that we're going to see.
Earlier, as you received notice from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, there's a patient in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who has been confirmed to have infection with monkeypox. That patient is currently hospitalized at Massachusetts General Hospital and is admitted to our special pathogens program. He is in stable condition.
The patient was placed in an airborne infection isolation room in our special pathogens unit. We're using gowns, gloves, and 95 respirators and eye protection. And this is personal protective equipment that our staff are very familiar with. This is same personal protective equipment that we use when we take care of patients at risk for COVID. It is a rare infection, originally identified in the 1950s in monkeys, and then the first human case in 1970. Most of the cases have been reported really out of West Africa or Central Africa. The cases that have been outside of that area have been reported to be related to travel or to animals. I mentioned rodents. Well, there was an outbreak in the United States in 2003 involving many states, and that was associated with prairie dogs. In the last year, there have been 2 cases in the United States in November and then in July. Both of those were associated with travel.
I think it's important to know that this is an evolving situation where in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a number of cases without a reported travel history to West Africa, which has been the travel that's been most relevant. So right now, we don't have that travel history. We don't know how the patient acquired this infection, and that's why we're working closely with public health authorities.
A lot of the clinical symptoms to really watch out for. So for example, patients can present, as Dr. Shenoy highlighted, with flu-like illness and other sort of very general fevers, chills, and an unexplained rash and lymphadenopathy. Those are the more classic symptoms. So really elevating knowledge about those, and then also the epidemiological risk factors in accordance with those, right? So thinking about travel to a country where cases have been identified, thinking about close contact with someone who's been diagnosed with monkeypox or suspected to have monkeypox, and then also men who have reported sexual contact with other men. So those are the big 3 epidemiological risks. And also men who have reported sexual contact with other men. So those are the big 3 epidemiological risks. And also men who have reported sexual contact with other men. So those are the big 3 epidemiological risk factors.
People should not be afraid of monkeypox right now. The current patient is of no public health risk right now, and people should just be aware of symptoms, but not be afraid in any way.
The World Health Organization has declared a global public health emergency following an outbreak of a new strain of the mpox virus in Africa. The virus, formerly known as monkeypox, can be passed on through close contact and causes flu-like symptoms and lesions on the body and can be deadly. It's now been detected in at least 13 African countries, but one country has been hit particularly hard, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mpox is surging across Africa. And this is ground zero. Thousands of cases have been reported in the Democratic Republic of Congo as a new outbreak grips the country. It's already claimed at least 450 lives, most of them children, most of them children, most of them children. And it's showing no sign of slowing down.
The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. In addition to other outbreaks of other clades of mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
Formerly known as monkeypox, mpox spreads through close contact, including sex, causing flu-like symptoms and painful pus-filled lesions. But this new strain is proving more infectious and even more deadly. And experts fear the growing outbreak in Africa could just be the tip of the iceberg.
We believe that it's already a risk for international spread, and of course, there is also the chance that it could spread beyond Africa to other regions of the world.
The World Health Organization last declared mpox an international health emergency in 2022, with cases in more than 70 countries. That was largely shut down with the help of vaccines and treatments in rich countries. But very few of those are available in Africa, and global health officials hope this new emergency declaration will kickstart an international effort to contain the disease.
Julian Tang is a virologist at the University of Leicester in the UK. I asked him to tell us more about the surge in mpox cases and how this outbreak differs from the one 2 years ago.
The difference is really due to the different clades or strains, if you like, of this mpox virus. The strain from 2 years ago was a global strain, and the clade 2, which is the so-called West African strain, and it proved to be much milder and more limited in terms of clinical severity than the original clade 1 virus. The one that's now spreading across Africa is a branch of the clade 1 virus, now termed clade 1b. And this is part of the original strain from the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And this has a higher mortality, is more severe clinically, and may be increasing transmissibility compared to the original endemic clade 1a strain from DRC.
Talk to us more about this transmissibility, because this mpox variant has now, this new strain has spread to 13 countries, the outbreak. Hundreds of people have died, mainly children. Why has this new variant been able to spread so quickly?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think we're still looking into this, but the original strain from DRC, the clade 1a, if you like, was limited in terms of that it would only spread beyond maybe 3 or 4 generations, and then it would die out. And it's often transmitted from animal reservoirs in the original endemic area. Now it looks like the virus has adapted better to human transmission. Again, something we saw with COVID-19 after several years. But this virus has been around in Africa for many more years. We've known about it for over 50 or 60 years. So I suspect that more cases, more human cases, are allowing the virus to evolve and transmit more efficiently between humans. Again, like we saw with COVID-19 and the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
How much of a difference do you think it'll make that the WHO has now declared the mpox outbreak to be a global public health emergency?
Oh, it should make a great difference. Normally these fakes, as we call them, PHEICs, tend to be announced when you want to release more funding and more resources to those particular epidemics or pandemic situations. And this should hopefully allow this release of funding and resources in those African countries, though of course they are already quite strained, resource limited in many other ways.
Should people outside of the affected regions be worried about their own health? Could this virus end up spreading much further? And if so, what precautions should people be taking?
Yes, of course. As we saw 2 years ago, the clade 2 strain spread globally along the so-called MSM network, the men who have sex with men sexual network. But this is much more indiscriminate. It seems to be spreading across the heterosexual population and other general populations. It may be less transmissible than the clade 2b strain turned out to be, but again, we need more data on this. And the way it transmits is through intimate close contacts of saliva, kissing, touching with contaminated secretions. And also there's some evidence of close range aerosol transmission after a prolonged period of contact, like in a household, for example.
Welcome back. There are more than 7,500 cases of monkeypox in this country, still mostly in men who have sex with men, but cases have also presented in children and in women. One ER doctor in San Francisco is sounding the alarm now. He tells News Nation about 1 in 4 of the monkeypox patients he's seeing were misdiagnosed and had their symptoms missed by another provider. While monkeypox cases continuing to climb, there are more than 7,500 cases in the U.S. and a national health emergency was just declared this week. Now, initially, the messaging was very clear about the outbreak being centered in the men who have sex with men community. The messaging was very clear about the outbreak being centered in the men who have sex with men community. The messaging was very clear about the outbreak being centered in the men who have sex with men community. The messaging was very clear about the outbreak being centered in the men who have sex with men community. This is still true, but children have come down with it and women as well. We spoke with the first woman in Georgia to be diagnosed with monkeypox. She believes she got it at work.
It was crazy. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, wow.
Camille Seaton says it was like a scene from a movie when doctors wearing protective suits told her she had monkeypox.
Every doctor who would come into my room had a big old gas mask on and like bubble suits. And it made me feel really like alienated. Like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me for real?
The 20-year-old tells us she checked herself into an Atlanta hospital about 3 weeks ago after noticing some strange looking bumps on her face.
I even tried putting makeup over it. The makeup didn't do anything. Like the dots were so prominent, like on my face. And I was like, okay, that never happened to me before. I'm trying to hide a pimple. And then that night they turned like blisters almost. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. So I went to the ER.
Seaton is the first woman in Georgia reported to have the disease that until only months ago was rarely seen outside of Central and West Africa. The Marietta resident thinks she contracted monkeypox working at her job as a gas station cashier.
I say I got it from touching dirty money or touching surfaces, just not being mindful of what I'm touching, and then touching my face, and then touching my hands, and then touching my body. And out, because let's be for real, like not everybody washes their hands every 15 minutes.
According to the CDC, anyone within close contact of someone with monkeypox can get it. And now more than 7,500 cases in the U.S. and a lack of available vaccines. Many are wondering how to slow the growing problem.
The doctors basically kicked me out of the hospital. Like they said, since there's no cure and it's new to them and there's no treatment, like you feel very alone in this. You feel very alone in this.
Our next story is on these lightning storms that have happened in San Diego. You're going to see where a news report on over 716 lightning strikes in San Diego in a short storm a few days ago. And also floods that are happening. We know we have floods happening in Atlanta. I did a video about those about the tropical storm Debbie. But now there's a new issue in Alaska, flooding in Alaska. Here we go.
Weather here in San Diego, thunderstorms, hail, even flash flooding in parts of the county. More than 700 lightning strikes were reported, and we've been tracking the conditions all day. Our Sarah Barker, she went out to our local mountains, but we're going to start off with Sarah Allegre, who's been standing by with the very latest forecast. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Misha. Yeah, thunder and lightning right here behind me. This was video out of Mount Laguna. Very powerful visuals there. As Misha mentioned, a total of 700 confirmed cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. Here's just one video of that. Kyle Hoyt sends this in from a little bit earlier this afternoon. What I'm showing you right now is a 6-hour loop of satellite radar that shows the activity that moved throughout San Diego County, stretching from the deserts, even making its way as far west as some of our valley areas a little bit earlier today. So in San Diego County, the visible electricity that we saw, the discharges at around 8,953 were totaled, but those cloud-to-ground strikes, the total we're seeing there, 713. A very active day for us here in San Diego County. It did move its way up north into Riverside County, but we really saw the brunt of this monsoonal moisture here as far south as our region. So we saw most of the activity here in Southern California. We will see those chances begin to wane as we head into our Monday. So wrapping up a very stormy Sunday. Minimal thunderstorm activity as we venture into Monday, mainly in the southeast. So we will still feel the muggy conditions that we felt today. But by the time we head into midweek, we're going to talk about some dry and cooler weather on the way. Guys?
All right, Sarah, thank you so much. Now let's bring in our Sarah Barker. She went to East County during this downpour, and she joins us now around the table. So incredible weather. I mean,
yeah, Misha, it was just crazy to see this firsthand. I mean, it was kind of sunny here at our station in Kearny Mesa, and then if you looked out to the east, you could just really see almost the black or gray sky. So we started driving east toward the mountain around 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then it started to rain right after we passed El Cajon, and then it started raining even harder and harder as we climbed up toward Pine Valley. When we got there, I talked with a few people who experienced this crazy hailstorm today firsthand.
A summer Sunday turned soggy as thunderstorms moved through San Diego County, soaking the mountains and sprinkling the valley.
A bunch of ruckus just hit the ground, like this herd of all these hard drops on the floor. And I was like, oh, and I see a bunch of balls everywhere, so bouncing.
I think it was the biggest hailstorm we've ever seen in the side of the Mississippi.
While it may not have been that, the Clegg family says they had to pull over while driving through Mount Laguna and shot this video of the hail coming down.
It just starts hailing, pouring, like crazy. Like we had to stop on the road and pull over because it was so bad. And then when we got to it was a Julian Pie over in Julian. It was so bad we had to check if there was any dents on the car.
It's been pretty crazy. It's like the rain's been hard.
As we drove through Pine Valley Sunday, we got this flash flood warning from the National Weather Service and saw several of the 100 lightning strikes that hit the area.
It felt like the lightning was right above us because it was shaking the car and stuff.
Because we didn't bring a rain jacket or umbrella or pants or rain shoes to talk.
Yeah, is it a little cold?
But never too cold for a frozen treat.
What kind of ice cream did you get?
Vanilla.
Employees at Pine Valley's Frosty Burger say Sunday's rain kept their usually long line pretty short.
It's usually pretty busy because right now it's summer, so it's really hot. Everyone's coming to get ice cream. But now as soon as the rain came, it's completely dead.
And the scripture that pertains to this is Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 2. Because this is judgment by the forces of the weather. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty one, which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. This is what the Lord is doing. The hand of the Lord is doing this. So when we look at the meanings of these words, we see, starting from the beginning, behold, the Lord hath a mighty one and a strong one, which as a tempest of hail, which that phraseology, tempest of hail, means in the Strongs of the Most High's judgment, of God's judgment, and a destroying storm. And destroying, the word itself there is storm, tempest, terror, horror. And then the storm definition is the rain, shower, thunderstorm, flood of rain, downpour, and rainstorm. As a flood, flood means to gush as water, to carry away as with a flood. Okay, and finishing out, of mighty waters overflowing. And that's what we see happening all around the world, in addition to these wildfires. Shall cast down to the earth with the hand. The Lord is destroying things, bringing things down to the earth with his mighty hand. And I'll leave you in the most capable hands of the Most High Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai.